We're breaking up the team top prospect list here with a regular episode. It's the call up. I'm Aram. He's Jack. We got Marlins top prospects. If you were really enjoying just continuing to fly through these team top prospect lists, don't worry. We're getting right back to that on Tuesday. But with spring training underway, big league camp underway, we figured we'll give you a little bit of a guide to the non-roster invitees. Both guys with prospect intrigue, but also some vets we just want to talk about and just give you a little bit of a reminder because I think it's very easy to forget maybe some names you haven't even thought of in a little bit in terms of the vet
Yeah.
side, but then also some top prospects, recent drafted guys that we might be getting some of our first looks at in professional ball from the 2024 class. Chase Burns is one that comes to mind immediately there. So a really fun conversation of players that are ranging from all different walks of their career at this point.
Yeah, so I think my least favorite thing about spring training, because spring training is my favorite time on the baseball calendar, more so than the postseason, more so than the All-Star break, because spring training actually signifies that baseball is back, and we've been begging for baseball to return, and spring training is that return of baseball. And especially growing up in the Midwest, like I look out, I see snow on the ground, and then I turn on a game in Arizona or Florida, and I'm like, okay, baseball's back, the end is near. Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, he didn't, yada yada yada. So, like, the thing that drives me up a wall about spring training is that everybody seems to not care from the fifth inning onwards. But I was one of those people that cared in like the sixth, seventh, eighth inning because I knew the name of the guy playing. Like, I would say the normal fan probably checks out after the fifth inning because the household names are out of the game. But you listening are not the normal fan. So you're going
Yeah.
to be really interested by what goes on in the seventh, eighth, and ninth inning of a spring training game.
Exactly. And it's like that guide, just because, look, of course, we all want to see the starters and focus on those guys. But at the same time, those guys, a lot of them, if you're in year seven, eight in the big leagues, even if you're in year 4 or 5 in the big leagues, you're just getting your feet back under you again. It's like riding a bike for a lot of these guys. There's nothing about hitting a baseball is like riding a bike, but getting back into the motion of things is they've got their routine. You're not really looking for anything in particular. With the prospects, there are certain guys, and we're going to talk about with the top guys what we might want to see from them. I think the other thing that if I could point out one thing that maybe frustrates me with spring training, I love it too. It's one of my favorite times because I get to see more players, more prospects in a short period of time than really anything else other than the Arizona Fall League. And that's also one of my favorite moments on the calendar. But I think we tend to take too much from small samples, and I know that's a lot of that's because of the eagerness and the excitement. But
Yep.
we can look back at last year and think about, and we're guilty of it too. I mean, I'm thinking about what Spencer Jones did in spring
Yeah.
training and how that did create a little bit of this wind at his back and excitement in his prospect stock, and then it just did not translate into full season success. A Chase DeLauder, it maybe would have, but he got hurt, so that's different. But I think that's one side of it where we can sometimes get a little bit ahead of ourselves and take too much away. But at the same time, Spencer Jones was probably as good of a trick or smokescreen as ever because you had a tangible swing adjustment, and
Yeah.
he was doing it against top flight arms, and also he's a first round pick with freakish talent. So that's going to happen, but we want to just give you a little bit of that guide. Tangible adjustments is going to be one of the main things that we're looking for with plenty of these guys, but on the pitching side, there'll be some unique things as well. And that's where it's the easiest and most fun, where we
Yeah.
get to see pitchers compete against top flight bats, but also you got duped last year. Mick Abel, you were
Yeah.
all in after that Juan Soto
I
AB.
was going to say hand up. Like, I
Yeah,
watched Mick Abel slice and dice Juan Soto, and I was like, you know what? This guy, he's the
he's
truth. He's
here.
going to be a Philly. And it just didn't work in Lehigh Valley. So, like, I've been duped on simple things, but that's the fun of spring training. You can totally get duped, and I'm okay. I'm fine if I get duped again.
More often than not, it is an appetizer to what is usually something that you're going to realize in the whole regular season, which is especially on the prospect front. Oh, this guy was working on this throughout the offseason, and this was our first opportunity to see that. This guy was working on his another pitch, and it's our first opportunity to see what that pitch looks like. I believe there's going to be a little bit more TrackMan data availability than last year. It might be like about a 20% increase from what we saw, so that part helps as well. Of course, the data doesn't lie. So those are the things that you can look at, especially on the pitcher front. Of course, you're going to take average exit velocities and stuff like that in a small sample. That's probably not worth it. But a new max, that matters.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Especially for a prospect. And pitching wise, that definitely matters. Even in a singular start, you don't want to take too much from it, but if there's a trend shift there, absolutely we'll be excited about that. So that will give you the little guide. And then, of course, we're going to be checking in on these folks throughout this spring training. We're both stationed now out of South Florida, so we'll be seeing a lot of the guys in West Palm and in Jupiter, predominantly Jupiter for you. You'll be seeing Marlins and probably Cardinals guys a lot. But for me, I'll be doing that, but I'm also going to Arizona next weekend through the middle of the week after that. So very excited to go out and see those folks in Arizona. A lot of good prospects out there too, which we'll be talking about in this episode. So that was also an opportunity for me to see last year Jackson Merrill in center field, right? And just watching him before games, getting his reps in, then watching him in games, get his reps in. And that's where I was able to see, okay, this guy's going to make this work. So there are a lot of tangible takeaways that you can have there too, and that's one of my favorite parts about it. But it's hard. Am I overreacting, or am I excited about something that's very real? That's always the challenge in spring training.
I think it's impossible to know what the right answer is, but just enjoy it, man. Like
Yeah.
2 years ago, I really enjoyed Anthony Volpe and Jordan Walker making a team out of camp. And last year, the Jackson Merrill story was huge. The Jared Jones story was huge. And
Yep.
Pittsburgh making it out of camp and earning a spot. And, you've got guys around the league that are doing that same thing where, hey, if you perform, you could thrust your way into a serious role on a Major League Baseball team by opening day or a month into the regular season. So I'm really excited.
And that's the PPI side of it where it's really fun
Mhm.
because you're rooting for a guy to now have a better chance to make the team. And then if he makes
Yeah.
the team, you've got something to root for all year long with him potentially winning that rookie of the year to get your team an extra draft pick. So we'll absolutely highlight those candidates as well.
Yep.
You got the American League, I got the National League. You want to go
Yep.
first?
I'll go first, yeah, and we'll kind of go division by division. I'll start with the American League East here, and I'm just going to mention guys that I think are like fun non-roster invitees. And NRIs, non-roster invitees, are members that are not on the 40-man roster. Everybody on the 40-man roster goes to big league spring training, but non-roster invites, the number varies. I don't know if like there's this uniform number of NRIs. I know some teams have a bunch of guys in big league camp. Some teams like to keep it a little tighter. But a non-roster invitee is a guy that either signed a minor league deal or is not yet on the 40-man roster in their farm system that receives an invite to Major League Camp to play in big league spring training games. So a couple of notable NRIs for the Yankees. On a non-prospect front, I'm really interested to see Tyler Matzik on the mound
Yeah.
again because he signed a minor league deal, I think. And then Brennan Davis, too, the newest New York Yankee. Really interested to see what he looks like in big league spring. But from the actual prospect lens, Spencer Jones is a non-roster invite. Curious what that's going to look like. George Lombard is a name that has a lot of helium entering 2025, so I want to see what that looks like. Chase Hampton off of injury, the pitcher. And then the catching situation, their backup catcher to Austin Wells is Alex Jackson right now, who is also a non-roster invitee. Rafael Flores is one of those guys. And I think Flores could be Ben Rice, but can actually hold his own behind the dish. And that is what I'm excited about. So I would say Lombard because everybody's talking about him, Hampton because I want to see if he's healthy, and then Rafael Flores for the sake of actually making the big club out of spring training.
A lot of buzz about Ben Rice, though. Ben Rice just might be the best Ben Rice, and he might just slingshot his way into taking that gig. And the defense, I'm sure he's been working on all off season. And the interesting aspect of that is we might have a reverse situation here where your starter is the defensive savant, and your backup
Yeah.
might be a little bit more offensively driven. But I'm excited to see if Flores can push it there and make it interesting. Lombard is absolutely the guy to watch here because he was 18 years old last season. So you're also just when it comes to a player that's that young, several months in the offseason, you can make significant changes both physically and just with your mechanics and the way that your athleticism and strength translates into game ability. So Lombard flashed a lot last year, and with the bloodlines, his dad being a big leaguer, with all the makeup that you just continue to hear how hardworking and smart of a player he is. That's a kid that I feel like is going to be a sponge in big league spring training, and you might just see him get better and better and better. And that's the other thing is it really is an opportunity for some of these younger prospects. It's what you make of it for a lot of these guys. And I could see George Lombard making the most out of that opportunity. Hampton, it's just, let's see the velo, right? There's a guy that was hurt. Let's see how it looks when he comes back. I don't think anybody's going to be worried about results. I don't care if his ERA is 20. The stuff is really good. He's got to get his feet back under him. I just want to see how he looks because it's been so long. And then I know he doesn't really have a ton of prospect intrigue anymore, but I'm still very interested to see what Brennan Davis does. But
Hmm.
before he went down again with the broken leg, he was hitting multiple 114-mile-per-hour home runs. We saw he had one of the best stretches of any hitter in the minor leagues last year when he was hitting a home
Yeah.
run seemingly every single day. That guy could be a piece for them at the big league level and help in a certain way, especially with how thin things could get with injuries here or there. So
Yeah.
I would probably say weirdly, and it's the bias there, but I might be most excited to see what Brennan Davis does because if he's healthy, I could see him going crazy this spring and
Yeah.
getting people excited about him again. It's just it's all about just staying available and staying on the field. The ability's still there.
Man, if you told Cubs fans 3 years ago that Brennan Davis could possibly be making his major league debut with the Yankees, they'd be saying, "Oh, did we get Judge or Cole? Like, who did we
Yeah.
get in return?"
Yep,
But
it is
yeah,
crazy, and that just shows you how fluid these things are. But I mean, this is a pro Brennan Davis podcast, so I'm
for sure.
very excited to see him, back on the field. But Lombard and the defense, I would say specifically, how does it
Yeah.
look at short, is going to be something I'm eager to see as well.
Yeah. Baltimore, there are a couple of outfielders that I'm curious about. Jed Fabian, Dylan Beavers were non-roster invites. No Arms made my list. Two guys that I want to see face big league pitchers right away. Enrique Bradfield Jr., who will step into the center field role once Cedric Mullins is off the roster. I don't really see a point in retaining Mullins beyond this year. And Samuel Basallo, he's a non-roster invite. I want to see him face big league starting pitching.
I want to see the approach with Basayo and see if that expansive, approach can affect him more with big league arms. It's hard though in spring training because guys aren't really trying to get you to chase; they're just focused on themselves. So that is the one side of it. But the other side is I do want to see the receiving with Basayo and how that looks. He's going to get an opportunity to work with big league starters, throughout spring training here, but then in game settings as well. Remember, this guy has an 80 arm. It's the best catcher arm in the minor leagues, and he can limit
Yeah.
the running game really well. He's not a bad blocker either. It's really just about the receiving at this point, which is really rough. So how has that come along? That's going to be something I'm excited to monitor. But Bradfield is just a guy that you want to see how that game plays against big league competition. Can he be scrappy, draw his walks, and is there enough gap to gap there? I'm excited for him as well.
Yeah. Boston, there are three guys, and it's the big three. I will say I'm probably, relative to the other two, least interested in watching Marcelo Meyer because I don't see a direct path to playing time
Mm-mm.
out of the gates.
Yeah.
And then for me, I think it's a toss up between watching Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell. Roman is obviously the number one prospect in baseball. Like that's the guy that I'm really excited to watch. But Campbell situationally, I'm as excited to watch because it feels like he has a more direct path to playing time on opening day and maybe even the opening day second base job.
Well, not now. Not
Oh
now.
yeah, because well, I'm
It's
trying to
interesting.
I'm trying to put it together in my brain.
It's interesting because Yoshida might be banged up. And also, like, if he just has a great spring, I don't know what they do with Yoshida. And it's tough because, like, I think that the discourse around Yoshida has gotten a little bit unfair to where he had a 117 WRC plus last year. Or what was it exactly last year? I'm looking at the projections now. That keeps throwing me for a loop, by the way, on Fangraphs as well. I love it.
Yeah.
But it keeps throwing me for a loop. But last year it was a
Yoshida was a
115.
115.
I knew it was right around that range. So it was a 115. Like I know the defense is a gaping hole. And it's not as much power as you'd want from a DH type, but if you want to potentially move him, he's got to play and maybe hit his way into an opportunity where teams may be interested. But at the same time, like this team clearly wants to win now. They just signed Alex Bregman on what really is portrayed as a 1 year deal based on the
It's a lot
structure.
of money, man. Like I know that's a just baseball show conversation, but like if Cubs fans are listening to this and they're pissed at Ricketts and Jed Hoyer for not doing the Bregman thing, you want to pay $40 million for Alex Bregman? Like I don't think so. That was a
Uh,
lot of money.
they should be pissed about a lot of other instances of not spending.
Sure, sure.
Especially when you have Matt Shaw. Like I think it would have just been a little forced there. It's really a 1 year deal at a high price. So
Yeah.
I am interested though because the thing that the Red Sox are kind of talking about is, oh well, Campbell has some versatility, right? We played him in the outfield, we played him in all these different spots. Yeah, but it's that conversation that we have with versatility where he's versatile because he's an athlete, but he's also versatile because he doesn't really play a single position that well.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really interested to see. But Campbell's got to be number one because how does that swing work? against some of the big league arms. I know that they're going to throw him out there. He's going to start in a lot of games, and
Yeah.
getting the opportunity there, and then where are they playing him defensively, and how does he look there? Because I do think that even with Bregman playing second base regularly, remember Trevor Story is hurt all the time, and
Yeah.
they're going to be probably relatively careful with him. Campbell can still play the outfield. They need a right-handed bat, even with the addition of Bregman. He could be this super utility guy for them that ends up finding his way into the lineup pretty significantly, especially if they decide to demote Yoshida a little bit in terms of his reps. So I would say Campbell's the number one guy. I'm just most fascinated to see one how they use him and two how it looks because
Yeah.
Roman, like that the second they think Roman is ready, he's going to be up there. And maybe if
Right.
he goes absolutely nuts this spring, he forces their hand. But what does that look like? So I'm
Right.
almost, it's not even a prospect conversation as much as a Red Sox decision making conversation because
Right.
if Roman forces their hand and he looks ready, you want that pick. And I know Breslow wants that pick. And
Yeah.
you have a chance, he'd be the favorite comfortably to win Rookie of the Year in the American League. Why wouldn't you want to have that guy on the opening day roster? So I think this might be one of the most fun watches in spring training this year, just to see what happens with the discourse and what they're going to ultimately do.
I think so too. And Campbell, it feels like more of the jigsaw puzzle that you got to sort out. Roman is, are you better than Wilyer Abreu or not? And that
Yeah.
is going to decide whether he's on the opening day roster or not. Tampa's NRI list is loaded. A funny one is Eloy Jimenez. Eloy looks like he might make the team. And apparently initial reports since he got to the complex are that he looks great, like best shape of his life type thing. So we'll see what happens with Eloy Jimenez. But Dominic Keegan is there, the catcher. Both first basemen, Xavier Isaac and Trey Morgan. Carson Williams is a non-roster invite, as is Chandler Simpson. Two relievers that I wanted to mention. Ben Peoples, who came up in the Rule 5 conversation, is an NRI. And Keyshawn Askew, who was disgusting in Montgomery, but is it big league caliber? I don't know. Like, those are two that I look at and I'm like, you could be funky enough to make that opening day roster, but I don't know.
Yeah, I want to shout out Coco Montes too.
Sure.
Because
Back from Japan, right?
yeah, got his bag quickly in Japan, comes back here. He was putting up big numbers in hitter-friendly environments though, but it was a guy that we were talking about in the Rockies org, like, when's he going to get a shot? When's he going to get a shot?
Yeah.
He could hit his way into an opportunity here. I think Dom Keegan's probably prospect wise. Of course, Carson Williams, it's just he's going to start the year in AAA. It's kind of the Marcelo
Yeah.
Meyer conversation.
Same,
They're
same
just
with Morgan and Isaac too, and
yeah,
probably Simpson based on the outfield traffic. I know it's not a great lineup, but there's traffic in the outfield.
Yeah, and Simpson, honestly, for how fast he is, he could be better defensively. So I think they're going to want him to continue to improve in that regard. That is something I definitely want to watch, though.
Yeah.
But Dominic Keegan and how he's handling his business behind the dish, I think, has got to be a guy that I'm as excited to see as anyone. I think he's made a lot of improvements. I think he's one of the most underrated catching prospects we've got. Obviously, they went out and signed Danny Jansen, and that kind of signified that, hey, we're going to buy some more time for a guy like Keegan. And I know that
Yeah.
they've got Ben Rortvet, who they acquired around this time last year, but I don't think they're expecting much from Rortvet. And I do think that the second Keegan's ready, you could have a nice timeshare behind the dish there, and just another good bat, off the bench that you could put in the DH spot when you don't want to have a Ronda facing a lefty or whatever it may be. I think Keegan has an opportunity to maybe surprise and force his way onto this team, especially if Rortvet just doesn't look great, but at least can expedite his process of playing his
Yeah.
way out of AAA pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then Morgan and Isaac. Honestly, I just want to see if they play some corner outfield in a big league spring training game.
Yeah,
Like, I'm really curious about that. Trey Morgan seems like he will. Isaac, he was out there for a minute in the fall league, right? I'm
he was.
curious. I'm curious if he would do that in big league spring training. My gut says no, but I could be surprised.
I wouldn't be shocked. I would love to see it though. He's an athlete. Like we were talking about when we've seen him play, he's a lot more athletic than you think, and that would
For
take
sure.
some pressure off of the bat. With the swing and miss, that's kind of crept up in his game since he got to Double A.
For sure. Toronto, it's not that fun of a conversation, to be honest. Alan Roden is a non roster invite. I'm curious to see what Roden does. Josh Kasevich is a non roster invite as well. And then Charles McAdoo, who came over in the
Mhm.
Isaiah Kiner Falefa deal, he's also a non roster invite. But those were really the only three names with some intrigue among the NRIs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intrigue if you're a Blue Jays fan is really at the big league level because it's a lot of guys
Right.
that I think are trying to carve out their roles individually as well. Like I think Kasevich is probably the most interesting. Is like along with Roden, is like a guy, can he just swing it enough and impress enough to maybe force his way onto the roster? But there's just so many guys at the big league level that they're still waiting for clarity on. When you look at a Leo Jimenez and a Davis Schneider, and then acquiring Andres Jimenez, so it's not as fascinating, I think, there as it is, with some of the other team situations. One guy that I do think could hit his way under radars just with the opportunity to get some ABs on a bigger stage is RJ Schreck. I don't know if there's much value beyond the bat, but that guy can hit. He's always been able to hit, and I'm eager to see if he puts up an impressive performance in spring training. If that's enough to start to get a little bit more prospect type with him.
Got you. All right, let's move to the American League Central here, and we'll start with Cleveland. There are a couple of guys. Chase DeLauter, again. DeLauter is a non-roster invite. I'm excited to watch Chase DeLauter hit baseballs and probably mash. George Valera is a non-roster invite, and I'm curious to see what a healthy Valera looks like in Big League Spring, although I see minimal path to him actually being on the roster. Cooper Ingle is a guy that we just
Hmm.
talked about in the Guardians' top prospect lists. They're gonna the thing we brought up with Ingle, they're not going to bring Hedges back after 25. If they brought him
No.
back for 26, I would be flat out stunned. They
Yeah.
need somebody to catch with Bo Naylor, and I think Ingle's the guy. And a fun reliever name, Riley Pint is a non-roster
Yeah.
invitation for the Guardians.
Another guy who I will just relentlessly root for,
Oh
like
yeah, oh
without a
yeah,
doubt. So, I mean, he throws fuzz. You put him in an organization that, like, remember, he was in Colorado, and not to dunk on them too much, but if you're a pitcher who needs tweaks, it's not just about the altitude. Being with the Rockies is probably one of the worst places you want to be, right? Yeah, and I'm just being honest. So now you go to one of the best places you want to be. Who knows? It might be wishful thinking, but it's possible. Maybe they unlock something here, and clearly they thought he was worth the time and the attention. So I'm eager to see that. And then a guy that's kind of been forgotten about that did have some crazy stuff, Luis Frias. Like, there was a point in time where his stuff was ridiculous, and he's flashed it. It has not been able to be put together consistently. I am just
yep,
interested to see if they unlock a little bit more out of him too.
yep. I could see that. No, those were the names that jumped out to me. Like, I don't know, I can't escape Valera, and it's not like the Riley Pine "I root for you relentlessly" thing. It's just like you're going to connect with one, and I know that our guys at is it Guardians Perspective
Yeah.
on Twitter. I love him, and I know he's going to clip that, and Elon's going to feed me that through the formula right away as soon as I open Twitter. It's like, oh,
Oh, of
Valera
course.
bomb, good, nice.
Of course. Of
So
course. But yeah, and then DeWater, it's the same old. Like, can
it's
you
the
just
same.
just be healthy,
Yeah.
and just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep. Pair of catchers with the Royals, Carter Jensen and Blake Mitchell are both non-roster invites. I'm really curious to see how that looks. Jack Caglione is a non-roster invite. Cags, same deal. You gonna take pitches? We'll see what happens. And then Cam Devaney is a guy that we talked about. I thought could have been a Rule 5 pick. That's a guy that I think can handle a major league shortstop. They have a really good major league shortstop. Also, I love that the Shredder has Bobby Witt at 4 on the shortstop rankings, but then MLB Network has him at 3 on the overall player rankings. How do we do this here? But I do think Devaney could handle shortstop in a backup role for Kansas City.
They need to recalibrate the shredder. I don't know how that works, but they got to
Yeah, they do.
recalibrate that thing. Devaney, like, it might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but if you're a Royals fan, like, you're interested in every 26 man spot. Devaney
For
is a
sure.
chance to kind of unseat Nick Lofton for that utility bench role there, and
Yeah,
I think he very well could with that good spring. He's just a little bit more toolsy, and as you mentioned, can probably give you a little bit more value defensively.
I
I'm
think
very
so.
eager to see the two catchers though, and then the last thing is Cags, because specifically it's not, oh, let's hope you magically start swinging less now, and it's not magically, but let's hope you're able to start doing that. He did it at the end of the Arizona Fall League. It
Yeah.
was a small sample, but he did it and the numbers followed. Is that just a small sample that was positive, or is that a sign of something that is going to carry into spring training and then have me feeling pretty good about him going into the regular season? This is a guy that they don't want to waste much time with him in the minor leagues, clearly. And so
No,
if he has a great spring, that process could be expedited. The other side of it too is he going to throw? I don't think he should, but they
no,
keep talking about it like he's going to throw at
no,
some
no,
point a
no,
little
no, no,
bit.
no.
Are we going to see it this spring? I don't know. Please just hit. You could hit 50
Yeah.
home runs. So, like, please focus on that, but we'll see.
I hate being a curmudgeon with that stuff, but like, do not throw.
Just
Please
stop.
do
Yeah,
not throw.
don't.
Um, Detroit. If you thought Toronto was underwhelming, take a look at the Detroit Tigers non-roster invites. No Max Clark, no Kevin McGonigal, no Bryce Rayner. We will get to his draft counterpart a little bit later on. Um,
Why is that?
it's I don't know. No Briseño either, which was weird. It's just Tyrone Lorenzo.
That is weird. It is very,
Yeah.
very weird. I mean, Tyron makes sense because that's a guy that, with the way he finished, we talked about the mechanical adjustment. Like, if he starts hot and has a great spring, like that's a guy that could absolutely, nestle his way in there. And if Dingler isn't doing what we're hoping, and I was really encouraged with what Dingler did last year on both sides of the game, but he's that next man up potentially. It is interesting though that they decided this year to just kind of give the prospects a little bit more time. I know McGonigal was banged up and stuff like that, but it is kind of surprising. While we're on this too, I know he's still on the 40. Spencer Torkelson, like that's got to be the guy to watch.
No, Torque is
There's
something to
some,
watch. I would also say Job is something to watch too,
oh yeah,
but
and
he's 40. Yeah.
yeah, he's on the 40 as well. But there was some interesting conversation around Torque and him not being that eager to use the hitting facility that they have there with the camera angles and everything, a little bit more old school. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think after you struggle for a while, you maybe should open up to some other ideas and
Just
try to
maybe.
try some different things. But we'll see. How you Lee, I'm excited to see as well. Just
Mhm.
see what that looks like, and when he's healthy, he's been very productive.
Yeah. Minnesota. Luke Keyshaw is probably the name to watch among the non-roster invites. Keyshaw back. He's working his way back from Tommy John surgery. He's healthy enough to go to Big League Spring and play some games. I wonder if he's going to play defensively or
I
just
don't
DH.
think so. I think he'll probably
Not.
just hit. I think he'll probably just hit.
It's okay. It'll still be interesting to watch
Mhm.
him, face big league pitching. Andrew Morris and Corey Lewis, two pitchers that got invites, but I know you and I have a bone to pick with no Peyton Eels big league invite.
Come on, like
Come on.
maybe there's something at hand I don't know in terms of like how many big league invites you can give out, but it seems like they're pretty easy to give out, right? Like I don't think that there's like, oh man, like, are we gonna have a spot to give it to this guy or that guy or whatever? Like Peyton Neal's earned it. And I'm not just saying it because of the story and not just saying it because of the fact that he was on our show
He
or
had a
that we just did the
910
Twins.
OPS and he got to AAA.
And you can argue that he's one of the first guys up to potentially help you in a utility role.
And they
I have
traded Michael Hellman. They traded Hellman like Eels, like that roster spot he's in the full conversation for. And like, sorry to cut you off, but I mean, dude, I'm just thinking about okay, if Keyshaw's not going to play defense, who would you rather see get reps? Eels who can, or Keyshaw who can't play defense?
I I just don't understand it really. It makes no sense to me, and he earned it. But maybe there's something else at hand that we don't know. Like Armando Alvarez, I know that he has to get reps with the big league team, so you can decide if he's worth keeping on the roster or whatever. But I'd probably rather give those big league reps and opportunities to a Peyton Neals.
Probably. I know I'd rather
Yeah,
give those reps to him.
yeah.
All right, let's go to the White Sox. They're loaded, man. The non-roster invites, it might actually be more fun when you get to the sixth and seventh inning here. Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith are both in big league camp. I am really excited to see those guys face major league hitters. Edgar Carroll and Kyle Teal are both going to get big league spring ABs. Braden Montgomery is also in big league camp. That's really exciting.
That's exciting.
Chase Mydroth, two more pitchers, Peyton Pallette and Grant Taylor. And some of the vets are funny. Brandon Drury is a non-roster invitee. Joey Gallo just signed yesterday is now a non-roster invitee. Bobby Dahlbeck is an NRI, and James Karinchak is an NRI. So they're funny names among the vets, but they're putting all their top prospects through this. And Colson's on the 40, so we're going to see a big league spring from Colson as well. You want to see the future? I mean, check out Camelback Ranch in the month of March.
What number do you think will be higher? The amount of pitches in spring training that Chase Mydroth swings and misses at, or the
Mhm.
total number of strikeouts between Joey Gallo, Tim Elko, and Bobby Dalbec?
Okay, if you're clumping Tim Elko in there, I'll go with the K number. I think the K number is going to be larger than the whiff number for Chase Mydroth.
I am very excited to watch Mydroth though. And I think that's a guy that should have a shot to make the team out of camp. There is
Yeah,
really no reason for him to go back to AAA.
no.
Nothing left to show. And if you know if you're not familiar, he came over in that Garrett Crochet trade. Easy to forget about though, because you had a couple bigger names and a
Yeah,
Montgomery who
Teal
was
and
just
Montgomery.
drafted
Yeah.
and Teal as a top 50 prospects. But Mydroth's like he was one of the most consistent and solid hitters that you had in minor league baseball last year. We're talking about a team that doesn't have any of those. So like he would be a breath of fresh air, even if he's a league average hitter. He can be the Nick Madrigal you were hoping for, I think, in a lot of ways offensively. So I do really think he has a chance to win that job. Obviously, Lenine Sosa has the inside track, but if he has a great spring, Mydroth, like he should get a shot. And like, I don't think it's an outrageous pipe dream to think that if some of the top dogs struggle, that he can be in the conversation for rookie of the year just off of hitting for a ton of average and getting the reps and just accumulating if you let him start an opening day.
I mean, dude, it was what? It was a 417, 420 on base percentage.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up, where he stacked up in terms of minor league baseball. Like, I mean, he was one of the better on base guys in all of minor league
Yep.
baseball. I'm going, okay, I got to
If
sort
I'm
through
not
the
mistaken, he
DSL
was
and the
top three.
complex. Top three, Luke Adams was a 443 OBP in high A. Campbell was a 439. Mydroth was a 437. Okay. So you had a Brewer and then two Red Sox in the top three in on base percentage.
That's ridiculous. And then
It's
you
really
mentioned on the
impressive.
pitching front with the White Sox yet? Did we get there?
Yeah, Schultz and Smith, obviously, but
Yeah.
then Peyton Pillette and Grant
hmm
Taylor, two other names that I'm really interested in.
I'm excited to see, Taylor, the numbers weren't great, the command wasn't great, but remember he was coming back off of injury in the Arizona Fall League. Super talented arm. But
Yeah.
Schultz is going to be must see TV every time he's on the mound. I mean, I want to try to sign up for alerts. And
I,
then
I
Hagen
saw the
Smith.
Randy Johnson comp on Twitter. I
Oh
saw
God,
somebody was like, "This is like our big unit." No, you can't do that. Don't do
stop,
that.
stop, please don't do that. But Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz, potentially both getting out there on the mound will be a lot of fun to watch. And then Mason Adams, just such a high floor arm and everything that he did last year. I think he can really uh, help his chances of getting a big league opportunity, maybe out of the gate or early in the season. But I got to be, how could you not be super amped about the two lefties and getting a chance to see more of them?
Bingo. We're going to go to the AL West in a moment. Before that, our first break. All right, let's start the American League West with the Houston Astros. Cam Smith acquired in the Kyle Tucker deal. Cam Smith is a non roster invite, as is Jacob Melton, as is Bryce Matthews. Miguel Oyola is also a non roster invite. And a weird procedural thing, Rafael Montero is technically a non roster invitee because he was DFA'd, outrighted, I think
Mhm.
elected. I don't even know if he elected free agency or
Did he
maybe
accept
came
the
back on a
assignment to
reduced.
AAA
He might have, but
and then
now he's
got
a
the
non-roster
yeah?
invite. Like that was just a weird contract to try and get out of. And Montero, he was throwing really high leverage innings and lied him over the winter. So he's not interesting compared to Ayola and some of the bats, but it was just a weird thing to see Rafael Montero after he signed a 3-year, like $40 million deal to be
Yeah,
a
he got paid.
non-roster invite. But Cam Smith is the one that I'm watching here.
Oh, I'm so excited. Bryce Matthews, just can he mitigate the swing and miss? How does the defense will get short? But it's just Cam Smith. Can you just keep the magic going here? I mean, it was the best pro debut I think of any of the guys that we saw from that draft class, and fresh off the trade, new environment here. How does it look? I'm gonna get to see a ton of him, given that he's gonna be playing out of Palm Beach. Very excited about that. But Matthews, I think brings a lot of excitement as well. So two really intriguing left side of the infield guys there. They might both ultimately be third baseman, but both offer a ton of power. And Melton, we got to see a little bit last year, but I want to see if there's any tweaks because the underlying data is so freaking good. He's so fast. He can stick in center field. It's just one adjustment away where if he's starting to do what he's capable of offensively, he could be a rocket ship of a prospect.
Yep, no doubt, man. All right, let's go to Seattle. They have a lot of their guys that are non-roster invites. Cole Young is a non-roster invitee, as is Colt Emerson. Lazaro Montes is also a non-roster invite. Harry Ford, Michael Arroyo, and then pitching-wise, Logan Evans and Brandon Garcia are the
hmm
two notable pitching non-roster invites. I don't know where to start with all of these guys because Cole Young is probably going to go to AAA after spending the
Yeah.
entirety of the year in Double last year. Colt Emerson just hasn't played that many games, so he's going to go to High A. Lazaro Montes has no shot to make the team out of camp, although he could hit his way to the big leagues depending on how Seattle is hitting. And Harry Ford, like, not to doomsday it, but does it kind of feel like this is his last chance to really impress before he becomes concrete trade bait?
Potentially. Or is it a situation here where we start to see the Mariners tip their hand and say, hey, we're going to move you around more. And we start to see him play more at second base or corner outfield or whatever it may be. So I'm very eager to see how they use Harry Ford defensively. I think that that'll be very telling. That's an aspect that I think is fascinating. And then it's mostly just being able to just see the young prospects. I don't think there's anything in particular you're looking for from a Michael Arroyo or a Colt Emerson. I think Cole Young's a little different since he's closer. Can
Yeah.
he build on that strong finish to the year? And what does that look like? And defensively, are they going to still keep giving him those reps at short? I think it's in their best interest too. And I think he can get by there. Those aspects of it are interesting. And then I think for Laz, you're just how bad is it in the corner outfield
Right.
and how much is he going to swing and miss? But I think there's a chance for him to really turn some heads offensively. Logan
Yeah.
Evans has a shot to really solidify himself as that next man up rather than Emerson Hancock. The thing is Hancock's already on the 40, but if they don't have a 40 crunch and Logan Evans looks like Logan Evans did last year, I think a strong spring could kind of leapfrog him over Emerson Hancock in that pecking order.
Could totally see that. What about Brandon Garcia? Where do you kind of sit on that?
When we talked about the Mariners' top prospects, I think he's a guy that could fit into their bullpen. And
I know you like him. Like, is it fit into their bullpen now, or is it fit into their bullpen in a year?
I think he could do it now. I wouldn't
Okay.
shock me. You look at the lefties that they have. It's Tyler Sassetto and Gabe Spire. Both were fine, um, but I think you could use another lefty in there, and especially since neither of them are guys that I think you're confidently putting in, to try to get strikeouts. I think Spire a little
Right.
bit more, but I mean Garcia's nasty, and he had a really good year. I could easily see him grabbing another spot in that bullpen, and there might be one open. I could see one spot potentially being there, and if a guy goes down, absolutely
Yeah.
could.
Got you. Texas. It's all about Sebastian Walcott. He's a non-roster invite. Big league starters against Sebastian Walcott. What does it look like? Is he overmatched, or is he going to hold his own? And is he going to hit a ball 430 feet in Arizona in the dry heat? He might.
He might.
Malcolm Moore also got an NRI. The end of the first round catcher out of Stanford last year. Abimelech Ortiz and Blaine Krim both got invites, but we're kind of like running out of time for excitement with those guys. You're just first baseman, and it's like, all right, I'd rather just watch Burger. And then the last one that I had written down was actually Adrian Hauser, because they may hit a point where they like need a depth arm, and Hauser epitomizes depth arms in Major League Baseball.
I'll give you two more that I'm actually excited about. I thought Dane Acker was, if I was with
Okay.
a
Yeah.
team and turning in a Rule Five list, Dane Acker would have probably been the top of my tier two or bottom of my tier one. I just think he's a really solid arm and could end up becoming a nice middle relief like swingman type of option for them. And then Cole Drake had a monster year. This past year, a lefty that maybe they just throw him into the bullpen. The Rangers have been as willing to do that with any team. You have a starter, but we're in win now mode, and this guy that can help us in the bullpen, go right there, or vice versa. I think
Yeah.
Drake, if he really looks good, and with the velo where it was at last year, like shorter spurts, they might be excited about him as a reliever potentially. So I'm
Cool.
excited to see him as well. But I agree, Hauser could end up becoming important depth for them.
Yeah.
Alejandro Ozuna in the year that he had, I think just
Sure.
merits a little bit of intrigue and attention there. And Ortiz had a monster finish to the second half, so it would be cool to just see him, carry that momentum. But like you said, it's going to be really hard for him to force his way into an opportunity there. But with a good spring to build off of the second half that he had, I don't remember off the top of my head how exactly what the exact numbers were, but I remember it being I think OPS over 1,000 comfortably.
Cool.
He could end up playing his way into being a trade piece as well. So
Yeah.
I am eager to see that and just see how the bat looks.
Two more teams in the American League. Oakland or the A's. Nick Kurtz got the invite to big league camp, and Kurtz they're going to push pretty quickly.
Oh yeah,
Max Muncy is a guy that we've talked a lot about, and I know that we like relative to a lot of other people in the industry. Toolsy outfielders Henry Bolte and Colby Thomas were both NRIs as well, and Mason Barnett and Jack Perkins, the two arms that I know you really like, are also big league invites.
I think both. I think Barnett and Perkins should, and I understand that they're going to want to see what they have with some of these older guys
Sure.
and sort that out. There's no reason to technically rush it, especially with the 40 man. And when you're a team that's still on the tail end of a rebuild, you don't want to just punt 40 man spots. But man, I think Jack Perkins and Mason Barnett can help this team now. I was floored with the adjustments that Perkins made when we talked about the A system. We got into that pretty in detail, and then Barnett's stuff was also fantastic right before the trade, and then after he just continued it. I think those two guys are going to pitch really well in spring training, especially Perkins with the swing and miss stuff. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to become more of a conversation of how quick can we get these guys up here. So I'm really like those are the two arms. I'm so glad that they're getting that opportunity. And then Colby Thomas, the year that he had, I have some concerns about the underlying and things like that,
Sure.
but he has a legit chance to make this team. I don't think there's much more for him to prove. It's just can he do it at the big league level? But I think with a strong spring from Kurtz, he might just go straight to double A. Well, he's probably going to go straight to double A anyways, but he could end up forcing his way quickly through double A. I don't know how much time they're going to want to waste in triple A, and he could end up expediting his big league process pretty quickly. And then I just want to see what Daniel Susac looks like as well,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I know he's fallen out of the prospect intrigue side of things, but remember, he doesn't need to be a first round talent, to break into the roster. They have Johnny Pareda, who they just
Yeah.
purchased from the Marlins. Like if Susac looks like he's getting closer to what can be that solid backup catcher, I think they'd have no problem casting Pareda aside, and he could end up becoming a better option.
I like that shout. Last team in the American League is the LA Angels. Christian Moore is a non-roster invite. Christian Moore could absolutely just make the team. Tim Anderson is technically slated to be the starting shortstop on roster resource, but Tim Anderson is a non-roster invite, and we could be looking at
That's
a Tim
crazy.
Anderson, Yohan Moncada left side of the infield in Anaheim on opening day.
I didn't really put together that he's probably going to have to start the season at shortstop because
Yeah,
you have what's the timeline for Zach Neto shoulder surgery? You got it.
I have no idea what the timeline is.
Like they're probably. I don't know. I don't know how quick it might take a while. It's crazy. We're going to potentially see Tim Anderson. I mean, odds are unless he has a putrid spring, he's going to break camp. Especially with Anthony Rendon presumably out for the entire season. Very weird that he got the hip surgery now. I don't know if that was something that just came up now or whatever that was, but it's kind of par for the course, unfortunately, with the Rendon situation. But yeah, it's Christian Moore, Christian Moore, Christian Moore. I think they're going to be looking for reasons to have him on the opening day roster, especially now.
Hmm.
So I don't even think he has to have a great spring. Just don't look overmatched, which
Yeah,
I still have my swing and miss concerns with Moore. Like
sure.
I do. But if he does not look overmatched, I would be shocked if they didn't put him on the opening day roster. Like you're going to give that spot to JD Davis instead.
I don't
Yeah,
think so. Who's
I don't
also a
think so.
non-roster invite. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
Christian Moore and Tim Anderson are at the top of my viewing list. But Nelson Rada also got the big
mhm.
league camp invite, which is interesting. That's a guy. There are not many in that Angels system, but he's one of the few with some prospect intrigue. Two arms, Sammy Natera, who you really liked in the Arizona Fall League, and George Klassen. I want to see what that stuff looks like against major league hitters.
Would you be surprised if both those guys just got thrusted into the bullpen?
I would be surprised if Klassen got thrusted into the bullpen because I think that they're going to try him as a starting pitcher, and I think they're going to give him a start in the big leagues in April. And it shouldn't happen, but it's going to happen because they did it with Aldegari last year, and it shouldn't have happened, but it happened.
Yeah, they took Garrett McDaniels, who's a very interesting lefty in the Rule 5, so he's going to grab one
Yeah,
of those spots. They've got Jose Suarez as another lefty. Then they've
I'm
got
good on
Quijada.
that.
They've got
Yeah,
Quijada
Jose
as another
Quijada.
lefty.
Yeah,
And then Brock Burke is another lefty. I think Burke probably going to be settle in there. Quijada's dealt with a lot of injuries, so we'll see. I think if a guy goes down, Natera could just get fast tracked right in there. Hey, this stuff
yeah.
looks so good. The velo is up. That's a guy that we talked about it when we were discussing the fall league. I don't know if you want to go extra lefty heavy, but he could end up unseating Suarez or Quijada potentially is one of those lefties in the bullpen. I think he'd be a better option.
I just don't see like immense value in doing the Jose Suarez thing again. They've already been doing it for several years, and it's not been sexy at all.
No, and Natera, it's like he's nasty. Like
Yeah.
there was some really impressive, and he's a guy that you can stretch out too. Like you can piggyback him if you need to. If
Yeah.
Kyle Hendricks gives up 8 runs in the first inning, he can be the guy that keeps you in the ball game
Right.
if the offense gets you back into it. Like I think Natera should be a guy that has a chance to make the team.
Hmm. All right. National League.
Let's do it. We'll start with
Cool.
the Braves. And the Braves, I don't think had as much, of the intrigue as well. But you have the obvious in Drake Baldwin,
Yep.
and it's tough with Baldwin because there's not really a direct path to playing time, especially with the way the roster is currently constructed,
Yep.
and with the DH spot clogged up too. But remember, Sean Murphy, he's solidified himself as one of the best catchers in baseball, but then was really banged up last year with the oblique. Maybe they want to manage his workload a little bit. The backup right now is Chadwick Trump. So I could see them justifying Drake Baldwin being brought up to the big league, especially a team that the Braves are less focused on development. They're more focused on win now, as they should be. I mean, he elevates that bench significantly, and he also gives them the opportunity to say, hey, when we're giving Sean Murphy a day off, it's not this dramatic drop off to, a guy that's going to put up a 70 WRC plus. And instead, it's a guy that could end up, producing above average offense. Gives you a lefty bat off the bench, which they don't have right now. So I think if Drake Baldwin has a good spring, he should have every opportunity to make that team. And I think he makes them better immediately. And they have other catchers as insurance policies, like a Kirk Casale, Sandy Leon, whatever it may be. But I think it should be Drake Baldwin's backup job to lose, even over Trump. Garrett Cooper is a big leaguer. I mean, the guy has hit for so much of his career when he is
Yeah.
healthy. Would it surprise you at all if Garrett Cooper just pops up here with the Braves and ends up becoming a productive bat for them? Like I'm interested to just see how he looks and if he's healthy
Yep.
and things like that. Roy Salinas is back. You might
Yep.
remember he was part of the trade with the A's. I always mix up the packages because
I
you have
think it
two
was the
trades with the
Olsen
A's.
deal. I think it was the three team
Yeah,
Olsen deal.
he's been hurt a ton, and to the degree that the A's cleared him off the 40 man, and the Braves took the opportunity to bring him back. It's just going to purely be what is the velocity at because we
Yeah.
know that this guy has crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
I know that then it's the command question, things like that. But I just want to see where the velocity is at because
Yeah.
he might be totally diminished. I hope not, but it's shoulder stuff. He's had a litany of issues. But he
Right.
also has an opportunity here to get back to where he was and solidify himself again as an intriguing upper minors pitching prospect.
For sure. Only other one that jumped out to me, the one you reported,
Mhm.
Diekman on a minor league deal. Like
Yeah.
Diekman intrigues me, man, because that guy from the left side, it's funky. They found a lot of success with Aaron Bummer. Why can't Diekman be Bummer, man?
I saw Mets fans like laughing because it was not good there. Give and I know that the Mets have had some success too, but give the Braves a shot here. I could see them getting Diekman right. Maybe he's
Yeah,
38 and out of gas, but we'll find out in spring training, and
we'll
that's
find out.
an absolutely great opportunity to sort that out. But yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else really that stands out to me
Not
on
really.
the NRI side. The Braves, understandably so, went more with the vets and the depth there, and I do think that's a decent way to go about it.
I will say 140 guy that jumps out to me is Nacho Alvarez, and you know that like
Mhm.
I wanted to see him get a little bit more of a shot at the big league level, but with Atlanta, you're never going to get an elongated shot in the major
No,
leagues if you're not balling from the jump. And like Vaughn Grissom balled from the jump, and Michael Harris balled from the jump, but Nacho didn't, and Nacho got I think 32 plate
yeah,
appearances. He
we
was
saw some of them
really
in
good last
Milwaukee
year in the minor leagues.
on our
Yeah,
stadium tour, but he is an opportunity. I think very easily if the bat looks like it's further along. It's easy to forget how young he is. I mean, Luke Williams and Nick Allen are projected to be on that bench right now. Easily could take one of those spots from those guys.
totally.
The Marlins, and you'll be seeing all these guys.
Yep.
I think they have plenty, and I'm kind of going in random order here, but Joe Mack, I think I'm as excited to see as anybody, just because the defense has come along to a point where it's plus, and
For
he
sure.
got into the power last year. The floor or the threshold hit tool wise is so low to be a big league catcher if you've got power and you're a plus defender, and Mack is just that. So does it look like plus defense, with big league runners and just working with a big league staff? And also, he struggled so dramatically with breaking balls as a hitter, but crush fastballs. Just how is he looking as a hitter? Because again, it doesn't have to be great; it just has to look competitive. And the approach, I think, will be a big wrinkle in that. Nathan
Yeah.
Martorella got the invite. He also
Yep.
came over in that Luis Arias trade, and I mean, it wasn't a great year, but at the same time, started great, got sent over to the Southern League, and yeah, it's a place where hitters go to die. He finished stronger, still have some intrigue in him as a bat. Marcy as well, Jacob Marcy, such a good defender. It's a guy that I just think the floor is basically fourth outfielder, but the underlying data has been so good for him. And another guy that the numbers look bad if you look at the slash line, but then you look at the WRC plus because it was the Southern League and he was technically above average. So it's just a guy that I'm eager to see how it looks when he's out of that situation. Ronnie Simon, this is a pro Ronnie Simon podcast, and yeah, he's a guy that could absolutely become a utility piece for them. And I thought that was one of the better minor league signings that we saw. And I think the Marlins very much were eager to get him, and I think paid him a little bit more than a lot of the other minor league signings to have an opportunity to break camp. And then Robbie Snelling, because Snelling looked so much better after the trade and in the second half. And the thing with Snelling is just he's too athletic to not be a consistently solid back into the rotation starter. But to be that guy that we were projecting as a mid-rotation starter at points, and maybe even a little bit more than that, he's got to find a little bit more velo. I think he can easily find that. He's a special athlete. He's a strong guy, and I just want to see where the velo's at.
Snelling starts. I'm locked into every pitch of the Marlins spring training, but
Yeah.
I'm locked into Snelling starts, and that's going to be really interesting, man. I'm also excited to see what Joe Mack can do. 40-man guy, but a catcher. Augustine Ramirez, same deal. Like I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. And then Jacob Berry as well. Like Berry put together the best stretch of his professional career, back half of last year, right? So I'm curious to see if he can take that into big league spring.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get the opportunity as a former first round guy. And just if you can see any sign of him building off of that, that of course would be a very welcome sight for Marlins fans.
For sure.
The Mets, they got some big name prospects, but I would say they're two of their bigger name prospects, Ryan Clifford, and just being able to see what he can do offensively. Is it mostly first base? Are they going to still mix him into left field a little bit, or right field, I should say? Veteran Joey Meneses, like this is a guy that was a very comfortably above average big leaguer, and then just kind of fell off there. What is he able to kind of regain here with the Mets? Can he play his way into an opportunity? Brandon Sproat, I think he just ran out of gas at the end of the year at AAA. We talked about Quinn Matthews. Didn't look as dramatic with Quinn Matthews, but Sproat being a guy that's so high octane, I think it was a little bit more tangible when he ran out of gas at AAA. But remember, this guy was one of the nastiest arms in the minor leagues this past year, and I think now fresh can have an opportunity to turn a lot of heads and be maybe the first man up to help out in that rotation, which has a lot of guys that might be banged up or might miss some time. And then Blade Tidwell, I still have a lot of intrigue in him, and I know it wasn't the best year ever. Same with Dom Hamill, but like, can those guys build off of it and kind of bounce back here? I think Tidwell has better stuff and a more well-rounded arsenal, and I'm eager to just see if he was able to turn some things around after somewhat of a rough year.
Yeah, Jet Williams is the guy for me.
Oh, I missed Jet. I did miss Jet.
Yeah. Jet. Like I don't know. Gilbert, I'll be interested to see if there's big league impact there, because when we've watched him, I'm like, I think we've come away from those games like, you're kind of small, man. Clifford's interesting to me, but Jet is the guy for me where it's like, can you hang with the big boys at this point after missing so much time?
Yeah, it's just hard to imagine Gilbert doing much in spring training that's going to change anything, because it's just it's a high floor, like relatively speaking, but at the same time, it's like, what do you excel at? Is it just going to be, but can he go closer to those 50s across the board? Jet healthy, and just what that looks like because he's been so banged up, and where they're playing him defensively. Are we going to see him get some more run in center field? Just how does the impact look in the box? Because he's flashed it when he's feeling good. I would say I just flat out miss Jet. That's the guy I'd probably be most excited to watch offensively, and probably period, maybe aside from Sproat.
Sproat for me, because he's just going to spit out some data points, and it's going to be like, what are we watching here? He's going to make Pitching Ninja a couple times, and it's going to be great, and everybody's going to love it. But Jet over the course of the entire month, I'm really curious about.
100%. National side of things, they invited some recent draftees. Of course, you're going to get a Caleb Lomavita there, which I'm excited to just see defensively. It's interesting because he has the feel to hit, and he has the tools to be a good defender. He swings at everything, and that affected his pro debut a little bit. But I think this is a great opportunity for him as a catcher. Brady House, we've talked about him as a guy that should have every opportunity to get up quickly. I think it's going to be hard to break camp considering how rough the AAA experience was at points. And but at the same time, if he goes crazy, who knows? Yohandy Morales, I'm very eager just to see if he made some swing adjustments. There's no doubting the bat speed and the power and just the slugging potential. But with the way he operates in the box right now, I just don't think it's conducive to success. So is it cleaned up and shortened up? We'll see. Dalen Lyle, I think, is the most underrated player in that system, and I think he can really turn some heads and be a guy that expedites his process through. Harley and Susana was already throwing 100 miles per hour in bullpens, and like that's another guy that like just fire up the stuff machine. Let's hope we get some TrackMan data every time he's out there, and it's going to be a blast to watch him throw. And then Marquise Grissom, I'm eager to see what Marquise Grissom looks like because that is a guy that could end up, fast tracking his way into the bullpen with the changeup. Of course, my computer's freezing on me because I have a Fangraphs page up right now. I just want to confirm Seaver King was not. Did he get an invite?
I don't think Seaver King got an invite. I will confirm right
Yeah, I've
now.
got the spinny wheel on Fangraphs right now.
Oh man, I've got the Phillies up right now. Let me go back to Washington here.
But
Seaver King,
in the
where are you
meantime,
at? No,
in the
he did
mean,
not. He
he
did
did
not
not.
get
Okay,
the
that's what I
invite.
thought. Okay, I just wanted to double check. Hoping I can shake this spinny wheel in a moment here. But I would say Morales swing adjustments, Loma Vida just watching him catch and go about his business. And I think the number one guy you're watching outside of Susana, but Susana's not going to get fast tracked or anything like that,
Yeah,
is House. And can he
house.
start to build that hype back up again and get himself?
Yeah.
Because I mean, he can be a guy that really ends up grabbing third base, and they've talked about it. Like they want him up there with the other guys sooner rather than later. If he has a huge spring, maybe it's a conversation.
Yeah, it's totally house. I saw him in Rochester. He looked maybe a little too young for AAA at the end of the year, but I think spring training can kickstart him needing to spend less time in AAA than what he would initially. I don't see a world where he breaks camp for them, but I do see a world where he could expedite the process, and it only takes him 2 months in Rochester to open the year instead of pretty much the entire year in
I,
Rochester.
I agree, especially with the signing of Ahmed Rosario. I'd imagine
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a verbal agreement there that
Sure,
you're going to
and
get your
I
ABs.
think they want to give Tana everyday reps too.
Mhm.
Like Tana's deserving of everyday reps at this point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and that it's probably how it should be, but it would be nice to build that momentum for House.
Sure.
Last one in the NL East is the Phillies, and they've got a lot of their top prospects out there, which I'm excited to
Yeah.
see. Of course, Aiden Miller leads the way, and the
Yeah.
thing with Miller, man, is like, is there a spot for him right now? No, but I mean, with the way he performed last year and his offensive ability, and the fact that the defense has come along to where the Phillies feel confident that he could potentially play shortstop, but you could put him at third, you could put him at second. If someone goes down and he has a great spring training and he has a great start to the year at the upper levels, that could expedite his process quite a bit as well. Justin Crawford, is he getting the ball in the air a little bit more? He's such a talented player, and the makeup with him is off the charts as well. You can refer back to our interview with him, where I mean,
Yeah.
he was probably one of the most like for a teenage prospect, like one of the most well spoken guys we've had on the show. I think he's going to do the things that he needs to do, but it's got to happen sooner rather than later at this point. Gabriel Rincones is continue to put together good seasons, so I'm interested to see that. Paul McIntosh, who they acquired, from the Marlins, he could end up playing his way into getting a reserve role as the catcher there. And I'm just
Yeah.
always a big PMAC fan, having played with him, age 14, 15, 16. He's a great dude. Andrew Painter, of course, like that's going to be the must
Not
see
missing a
TV.
pitch, brother. I'm not missing a single pitch of big league spring for Painter.
Especially because he's fresh and ready to go. When we saw him in the Arizona Fall League, and he's dialed in, right? It's going to be a lot of fun. And then Aoyagi, who they signed out of Japan. I just want to see what he looks like, right? Like, how does it look?
Cool.
What does the data look like with the big league ball? Um, it was 88 miles per hour out of the NPB. So we'll see. But I don't know. I'm excited to just see because he's an NRI guy as well.
Yep. No, I'm not missing a single pitch of Andrew Painter. Obviously, I have interest in Aiden Miller. Obviously, I have interest in Justin Crawford, but it's really Painter. And that's like the easiest way to take in spring training baseball. Oh, Painter's on the mound today. I'm going to watch the Phillies today.
Yep,
Oh,
because
Joe's
he'll
on the
get
mound for
starts.
Detroit. Right. I'm going to watch the Tigers. Like, it's easy to watch. Oh, Noah Schultz is throwing for the White Sox. I'm going to watch the White Sox today. Like, that's almost how I curate my viewing menu every single day. And every time Painter's on the mound, I'm going to prioritize watching Painter, whether it's live or on replay.
If he rips through spring training, even if he doesn't, I mean, he's probably the next man up, right? If anybody goes
So
down,
there are six of them right now, right? It's Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, Luzardo, Sanchez. That's five. Painter would be six. Yeah. Okay. So Painter is six. But, like, who do you pinch out of that?
and you'd have to clear someone off the 40 too. So it's tough. Regardless, this is just a great opportunity for him to say like, because you don't get to see a ton of the video in the Arizona Fall League. It's, hey,
Right.
remember me? I'm one of the best pitching prospects, if not the best in Major League Baseball, and
Yeah.
I'm eager to see what that looks like. And also there was a little bit of a feel for the secondaries that was still coming back to him in the Fall League. I think he's had some time now to regain. The Brewers have a fun list, of course, some arms that we're excited to see. But Cooper Pratt gets the invite as well, and Pratt, had a great year. He's had plenty of prospect hype around him as a guy that's just kind of hit the ground running, overslot guy that I think a lot of people were surprised that the Brewers were able to sign away from a college commitment. So Pratt's a guy that has all the makings to climb quickly, and I think his game is one that can acclimate to aggressive pushes. So can Luis Lara's, but he was not really what we were hoping over the last year and a half. So he gets the big league invite. Let's see if he can build on some things there and just kind of get himself back on track. I am excited to see Anthony Segor, the infielder, who they signed
Yeah.
to a minor league deal. Let's see Anthony Segor, the switch throwing second baseman now and switch hitting second baseman as well. And then Davy Garcia. But then must see TV is going to be every time Jacob Mizorowski's on the mound and Craig Yoho.
Yes.
Mizorowski, are they stretching him out? Is he going to get starts? Is he coming out of the pen? And Craig Yoho, just watch him throw changeups, man. Just watch him throw those freakazoid pitches. And if Yoho has a dominant spring, can he nestle his way into that opening day bullpen?
He absolutely should. I'm just thinking about the possibility of Nashville running out in their bullpen if they want to do the Mizorowski reliever thing in AAA for a little bit before the big leagues. Mizorowski, Yoho, maybe Abner Uribe in that Nashville bullpen, and they just brought Grant Anderson in, who's one of the funkiest looks that we have in Major League Baseball. And, like, if all four of those guys are in Nashville, that's a murderer's row of relievers. Those are four Major League relievers hanging out in the minor leagues.
Yeah, it really sucks. Like you're in AAA, you're trying to get to the show, and then you just got to deal with a
Brutal.
major league bullpen.
It's
It's
brutal. It's like you're tipping your cap after the sixth inning. It's like, all right, well, now I have no shot.
Yeah, it's that does suck. And then shout out another friend, Jimmy Herron. I mean,
Hmm.
another guy that's put up great numbers in Colorado or in Albuquerque, just hasn't had an opportunity. Brewers signed him, gave him that NRI opportunity, and look, he's just a solid player. If break glass for emergency, you need an outfielder. He's a guy that I think can hold it down for them. So I'm hoping he has a great spring and can play his way into being that like next man up for them. That they
Yep.
just seem to always have a great plug and play bat at almost every position for them waiting in Nashville. So
Yeah.
rooting for Jimmy as well.
I was very surprised that Brock Wilken did not get an invite.
So was I. I thought that was interesting,
Yeah.
especially being a first round guy. And it wasn't a disaster year. Like there's another WRC plus guy that you got to look at instead of the slash line that was slightly
You're
above
right.
average. I know it was a disappointment, but it was surprising to see Wilkin not get that invite.
Yeah.
The Cardinals. This might be as much of a prospect intrigue list as any we're going to talk about here. JJ Weatherholt gets the invite. Hell yeah. Any opportunity to see more JJ, I'm pumped on. And just we only saw him at low A, so just seeing him against better arms. Chase Davis had a great finish to the year. How does he
Yeah.
look? Jimmy Crooks, who we just talked about when we broke down the
Hmm.
Cardinal system, was probably the biggest climber in that Cardinal system this past year behind the dish. I mean, that's a guy that could absolutely play his way into more reps. It's a little bit tight there because Ivan Herrera, is a guy that I think is going to be their catcher of the future. But we've talked about it, the tandem being the new way with so many more talented catchers on the way. We're kind of out of this catcher drought that we were in for several years, and it seems like there's a lot more there. Pedro Page is probably going to get his opportunities, but I think Crooks can put the pressure on a little bit more. Another catcher
Yep.
with intrigue is Leonardo Bernal, and he's
Mhm.
had another solid year. Is young, and you're going to get opportunities to probably fill in later on. Cesar Prieto is a good utility piece that I think could put the pressure on to grab a bench spot. And then on the pitching side, Nick Anderson is a vet. we know how
Yeah,
talented he is.
interesting.
What does it look like? Quinn Matthews, Cooper Jerpy. I mean, Matthews is big league ready just about. I could see them wanting to get some more innings in at the AAA level, and the rotation is kind of full right now, but it could make them a little bit more eager to move one of the veteran arms. And then, you look at what you could have with Cooper Jerpy. You don't want to waste that many more bullets in the minor leagues, being that he's been banged up. We talked about how ridiculously good he looked when he was on the mound, how unique the angle is. If they want to fast track him to the bullpen and then transition him back into a starter role when they clear up the vets in the rotation, that might be worth it as well. So I think Jerpy's going to have a great spring if he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch Jerpy. No, Quinn Matthews is the one. Again, like you want to talk about curating a viewing menu. Anytime Quinn Matthews gets starts, I'm going to be tuned in to the St. Louis Cardinals, and hopefully I'll get to see a couple of them in Jupiter when they're playing the Marlins. But Crooks is the name that jumped out to me. Also, funny name, Jose Barrero,
I was looking at
non-roster
that.
invite. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of like a last gasp for him there too, but there's
Yeah,
talent. So yeah, I am fascinated to see that as well. Cubs side is another loaded one.
yeah.
If it's not the Cardinals prospect intrigue, it's the Cubs that probably gets the W here. Matt Shaw, I mean, he's not on the 40 man, so they're not going to expedite needing to clear that 40 man spot. But I have a feeling that they're probably going to be doing that as long as he doesn't stink. Like I don't even think he needs
Yeah.
to be insane Matt Shaw that he's been for the last several months of the season, and then even into the Premier 12 and whatever. It's his job now, I think, with Bregman, signing in Boston. Moises Ballesteros, he's
Yeah.
thinner. That's the reports. He's been working on the defense. I just want to see it, and he's got to be the
Yep.
number one guy I'm excited to see there. Pablo Aliendo has some intrigue just as a potential catcher for them as well. James Triantos, where are you playing
Uh-huh.
him? Is he tapping into a little bit more power? That's a guy, if he pops a new max, you got my attention. Christian
Yeah.
Franklin, we thought he could be a Rule 5 guy. Didn't end up getting selected. I don't mistake that for him not being an intriguing prospect. He is, especially with the approach and everything. He's a swing adjustment guy. Does it look better? It's very unorthodox. 60% ground ball rate. Can he make some changes to get it in the air more? I'm going to be looking at that. And then the pitching side. The vets, you got Trevor Richards and Phil Bickford, which I think can be interesting relievers for them. But Cade Horton, is he healthy?
Are you
What
healthy?
what's the
Yeah.
velo at? Is the big question because the velo was down before he missed the entire season. And then Brandon Birdsell. I think he has a chance to endear himself as a swingman. He could be the next man up as a spot starter because, they don't want to push Horton too aggressively. He could work out of the bullpen as well. So I think Birdsell is a guy that I'm just excited to see how they use him and what it looks like.
Yeah, Cade Horton actually leads the pack for me because I'm
Oh, yeah.
curious if he's healthy or not. He's ahead of Shaw for me because I assume Shaw's the opening day third baseman, and I'm going to adjust if he's putting together a disappointing spring, and we have to deviate, and maybe it's Gage Workman on opening day, or maybe they bring in a free agent that they can have for 2 months, and then Shaw's ready eventually. But for me, it's Cade because it's pretty similar to the Andrew Painter conversation, where it's like I think people might have forgotten how good you are. Remind people how good you are when
Yeah.
you have a lot of eyeballs on you, and that's the opportunity that's in front of Cade Horton.
I reminded myself when we updated the system, I went back and
Yeah,
was
it's
watching
like,
the
oh wow, he's
2023.
awesome.
Like,
Yeah,
damn, man, this guy was getting better and better and better as the year progressed and was doing the
yeah,
thing that we're seeing a lot of the top young pitchers in the game do. Like, wait, you just spawned that pitch? Like you just
right.
changed your grip on a changeup and now it's gross? Like that's what he was doing. And to your point, they also signed John Birdie. So that's a guy that could absolutely plug into third as that insurance policy as well in the meantime. But again, it seems like Shaw has the inside track. Ballesteros and Shaw and Horton are the two for me. Because like again, if Ballesteros looks like a 40 defender,
Yeah,
then rocket ship ready to go. Like he's the
yeah,
bat's not a problem. And if he's a below average, slightly below average defender, he's still going to be an above average catcher with the bat. So
for sure.
I'm just eager to see if what the skinnier, more athletic Ballesteros, reportedly looks like.
Yep.
Pirates got another recent draftee on the way, and then man, are the arms fun as well. You got Connor Griffin. He put on some strength, made some swing adjustments too. I want to see how much swing and miss there is. Of course, he's gonna whiff because he's gonna be facing big league arms, but I just want to see what it looks like. Tamar Johnson, similar. Is it still this dramatic barrel tip, or did we quiet some things down a little bit? And just kind of who are you as we've continued to talk about the hit versus power side of things. Jack Brannigan, Like he has a lot of intrigue still because I think he has such a high floor as a utility guy that can do a lot of different things and can run into some home runs. But the pitching side, man, you got Bubba Chandler, you got Thomas Harrington, you got Hunter Barco, who finished the year so well and had the velo back. Then you have Anthony Solomito, who did not, but we've seen him be great. And we've seen him be a top 100 arm. So Solomito, where's the velo at? He
Yeah.
might be the number one guy I'm excited to watch because I know Bubba's great. I know Thomas Harrington's really good. I know Hunter Barco is healthy and got better as he was further removed from TJ.
Yeah.
I am interested about Tamar, but I don't think you're going to get that answer in spring training. Solomito, you're going to find out immediately just based on what the stuff looks like because the velo was down so significantly this past year.
Yeah, he's probably the one that you circle, but for me, like it's going to be hard to not watch every rep that Connor Griffin gets in a
Yeah.
big league spring training game. Like Rayner, it was probably not even a conversation starter with the Tigers. It's like, hey, is Rayner going to be in big league spring? No. Like Scott Harris heard that. And it's like, why would he ever be in big league spring if they're not going to put Clark and McGonigal in that situation? But the fact that Ben Charrington said yes to Connor Griffin being in big league spring, like that's going to provide a lot of excitement. And I've seen the BP videos this offseason. I saw the on-field BP yesterday from our guy Noah Hiles putting that out. I saw a video from Kevin Gorman of him taking grounders at short. I mean, he's a physical specimen. Like I just forget every time, and then I see another video, and I'm like, wow, yeah,
Freakishly.
you're actually huge. I mean, this is a subdued version of the O'Neill Cruz conversation, where like some of the metrics that we get from that guy during Big League Spring, if Statcast is on, are going to be out of bounds, man.
Yeah. That'll be cool too. You can imagine the hype train if when Connor Griffin times one up and it's 112 off the bat. And
Yeah, dude. It's like, oh, he's 18 years old and he's ripping a 112 in a big league spring training game.
how about the defensive side of things too? Is
Yeah.
he getting more reps at short? Is he getting more reps at center? These short center guys, I've noticed that teams predominantly want to give them the reps at short with the fallback kind of being center. I
Yeah.
think Griffin can be a really good shortstop. And we've talked about it. I think he could be an elite center fielder, but I can understand wanting to get those reps at short and just see there first. But maybe they split it evenly. That I'm very excited to find out as well.
Yeah.
The Reds, kind of exactly who you'd expect, to be
Mhm.
honest. Sal Stewart, Cam Collier, Edwin Arroyo, Hector Rodriguez on the offensive side. Stewart, he just hits, man. So like, there's nothing in particular I need to see from him other than just keep doing what you're doing, man. And I think he can really start to push his way to the upper minors and to be challenged a little bit more. Cam Collier, great second half, like we've talked about with a lot of other guys. Can you maintain that? The swing adjustments that we saw, build on that. Edwin Arroyo missed the whole year, was shaky at the start of the fall league, then finished strong. So just what does a healthy Edwin Arroyo look like? Hector
Yeah.
Rodriguez was a bit disappointing, but in terms of just, we talked about it when we did the red system, in terms of just swing talent, bat speed, and ability, like he's got it. It's just the approach is so brutal. So just watching him, he's still young. Then the arms. Chase Petty, what a year he had. Chase Burns' pro debut, like technically speaking, that's going to be awesome. Wade Miley is a vet, like that could
I
end up
love
becoming
that.
important depth for them. And then Zach Maxwell. I mean, they traded their stuff, like inconsistent stuff guy that strikes everybody out in the bullpen to the Yankees. Now they've got a guy that could fill in and do that too. If Zach Maxwell's throwing strikes with his fastball in 102, he could absolutely grab a spot in the pen.
I think Zach Maxwell could very well make that team. All I want is for the designed piggyback of Wade Miley going the first two and Chase Burns going the next two. Like that's all I want in my life. Wade Miley to Chase Burns, and I all would be right in the world because you got what speed running 88-mile-an-hour fastballs, and then you've got 101, and he's going to be amped out of his freaking
Yeah.
mind, ripping off what 70 grades slider.
Easy.
That
Yeah.
Burns and Chase Petty too. I'm really interested to see what Petty looks like, especially now with the Louder injury news. I don't know what the severity of that is, but I don't know. It's super unfortunate, and I hope that it's not something that's going to cause him to miss too much time. But it would be big if Petty hit the ground running.
And I mean, I think with a good spring, if there's an open spot in that rotation, seems like they're fine for now with the five. But remember, you got Nick Lodolo in there who's often
Yeah,
injured. Hunter Green has had arm issues pop up. You're not rooting for that, obviously. That's your worst case scenario. But Petty is right there, and could
yeah,
be a guy that with the way he finished the year, absolutely could be the first man up and get an opportunity there. So I am excited. But Chase Burns is another one where you're not missing a pitch.
No.
You can't. I can't wait to see what it looks like. But also, how's that fastball playing?
Yeah.
Is he getting more true ride and our hitters not picking it up quite as easily as they were at points, in his collegiate career? Did he tweak some things there?
Yeah.
NL West, D-backs, not a ton of intrigue. Trey Mancini, though, I talk about a guy that we will relentlessly root for on the pod. Trey Mancini, I would love to see him have a big spring, even if there's not room for him on the roster. He's stayed in game shape, have a big spring, get out to AAA. You know he's going to mash out there, and maybe he gets an opportunity where he can play elsewhere, or he can fill in for the D-backs. But how do you not root for a guy like Trey Mancini, who's also just a great human being and a great story? Garrett Hampson, I was pretty surprised he couldn't get himself a big league deal, and that's a guy that could be a great utility piece as well. But on the prospect side, Gino Groover, great finish to the year. AJ Vukovic is of course just a talented player, but
Yeah.
it's kind of he needs to start putting it together now. And then Christian Robinson, we talked about the last gasp, right, in the Arizona Fall League, showed some good things here and enough for the D-backs to say, hey, we want to see more, and let's get you to the big league camp. And I don't need to sell you on the talent of Robinson. It's just, can he hit enough? And hopefully he can.
Only other name that jumps out to me. By the way, not a single non-roster invite starting pitcher. Like
Yeah.
they're all 40-man guys. Now they have a bunch of starters on the 40, but like not a single NRI. That was kind of weird to look at. Christian Pache is the other name that jumps out to me because
I knew
the
you'd bring him up.
Diamondbacks so clearly have a type, and it's guys that can just go get it. They don't want a single fly ball dropping either in Arizona or at any of the affiliates. And Pache is going to be a platinum glover in Reno this year.
Oh, absolutely in Reno. The ball's gonna be flying and he's gonna be running.
Yeah.
We might see some special highlight reel grabs out there.
Yeah.
Dodgers, Dalton Rushing, David
Yeah.
Bodie, Alex Freeland. I think Freeland's got an opportunity with a good spring to clearly be that next man up in the middle infield. Dalton Rushing, I mean, you're kind of expecting him to have a good spring at this point, and you don't really know where he fits in, but he's one of the top prospects in baseball. Then they got the young guys as well. Josue De Paula getting the invite, and Zaire Hope as his prospect stock just rocket ships. Cody Hosey, former first rounder that I'll always root for, and he finally had a year where you could see some positives there. So maybe able to keep that going. Austin Gauthier, another really underrated good year, a guy that can kind of move all over. And then Jackson Ferris, great year, pitchers way under our top 100 list. That's another guy that I don't want to miss when he's on the mound there, because it's going to be fun to see him as the way he's just continued to develop.
They've got this other righty too, Sasaki.
Oh,
Roki Sasaki
yeah,
is
he's
a
a non-roster
non-roster
invitee.
He's
Damn
a
it, good catch.
non-roster invitee because he signed a minor league free agent deal. Yeah, so Roki headlining the NRIs. If you put together a list, I mean, he's definitely top two.
He's the number one NRI of all time, probably.
Is he? Roman's an NRI.
Yeah. I think Rocky's the most interesting NRI in the history of NRIs.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Otani was an NRI technically. I think his first
At the
year
time, though, I think Roki would
Maybe.
provide probably a little bit more intrigue.
maybe at the time he's probably the most famous international free
Nobody's
agent.
saying that Roki sucks. There were some people out there that they were
Said Ohtani
completely
sucked,
wrong.
yeah.
But
You're right.
there
You're right.
were some anonymous scouts that said he looked like a high school hitter?
Yeah, I
Ohtani?
think so.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh God.
50,
Good stuff.
50 later. Yeah, Sasaki is probably the most intriguing non-roster invitee in the history of non-roster invitees. Ferris is a name that jumps out to me big time. And then Zaire Hope, dude, we
Zaire.
saw him connect with inferior pitching in the Arizona Fall League. I'm curious to see what he looks like against superior pitching.
Easy to forget that Zaire Hope is not played a lot of games and he's only played at low A. So
Yeah.
like he might be overwhelmed a bit. If he's
Yeah.
not, he's going to start solidifying himself.
Yeah, if he's
Like
not,
that's a
if
guy
he's
who's
not as a
prospect.
top 10 prospect in the game, like there's all that. But Freeland, I'm with you. In terms of realistic roster fit, aside from Sasaki, Freeland's the guy.
Zaire Hope, we're just so desperate for reps because like
Yeah.
we don't have a ton of games and what we have seen is so freaking ridiculous that
Yeah.
another 15, 20 games, I don't know how much he's going to get in, whatever, but in spring training is another good chunk of sample size. So relatively speaking, so that's a guy that I'm not going to want to miss ABs of either.
Yep.
Giants, of course, Bryce Eldridge gets the invite. I mean, they have been fast tracking that dude, and it wasn't as good as we wanted to see in the fall league. I think it was a lot of games for the kid. Like he has not played that many games, and they kept pushing him, and it was great. I mean, the things that he did, at the upper levels to even be able to be pushed that way and succeed was really impressive. But the swing and miss crept in, and does it stay, to continue to be a problem in big league spring training? Jake Lamb is just still kicking, baby.
Yeah,
So
man.
just Jake Lamb's still kicking. That's all I wanted to mention there. Carson Wisenhunt, of course, is going to have plenty of intrigue there. And how does he look? And then Ethan Small, I still think, if he's
Uh-huh.
healthy, can be a guy that fits into the equation for them.
Uh-huh. I love the Jake Lamb shout. Shocked you didn't mention Max Stassi or Logan Porter on the
Hey, we did
in our
break
rye
Max
list.
Stassi as well.
Yep. Catching depth. That was one of your first scoops, I
I
think, was
think it
Max
was. It
Stassi.
was.
Was
It
it your
was.
first scoop?
I think it was.
I think it was your
Yeah.
first one where it was like, I have this.
Hey,
What do
people
I do?
care. Do people care about Matt? Like that was one of those where it was like, is it even worth it? And it was,
Yeah,
I guess.
totally
Um,
worth it. No, Eldridge is the one, especially because it's a similar conversation to the Cags conversation where you've got a guy that like an organization is just trying to speed run through their minor league system.
Wizenhunt for me too, just because, of course, it's 100% Eldridge, but Wizenhunt finished the year looking good after coming off of injury, missed some time, and then
Yeah.
we got to see like six more starts, final start of the year. And remember, he was pitching in Sacramento, which actually is sneaky a good place to pitch, unlike a lot of other PCL ballparks.
Right.
But 6 innings, final timeout, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 10 Ks. The interesting thing is we've seen him at spots when his shoulder's bothering him as low as 91, 92. And then we've seen him as high as, averaging 95 through a start. He settled in last year at about 93 and a half. So I'm just interested in the velo. No questions about the changeup, obviously.
Right. Right. No, the changeup is awesome, but now I guess I'm less intrigued by Wizenhunt because he spent what I think it was the entire year in AAA, right?
Yep.
Or was it a
Yeah, he
little
did.
bit in double? No, it was the entire year in
Yeah.
AAA. So I know that he was dealing with some injury things, but like it was the whole year in AAA and it just didn't really click until the very, very end. So
Yeah,
if it is clicking in spring, awesome.
absolutely. And we get to the Rockies.
Yeah.
Uh, there's some prospects of intrigue, but I got to start with Keston Hira. What
Yeah.
he did in the PCL, I want to see if he's able to do some of those things. Like this is his legitimate last chance. And another
Yes.
guy that I definitely root for, given his arc, and it's got to be just a mental tax, given the ups and downs that he's had throughout his professional career. But Hira for the Salt Lake Bees was Barry Bonds. Like it was absurd what he was doing for them. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic, I'll pull a stretch right here where since even when he went back to oh my gosh, actually, I can't pull the stretch immediately because I got to sort through the away the MLB ABs where it was not nearly as good. I'll get the exact numbers in a moment. But the big reason why he succeeded so much is the environments that he was hitting in out there.
Right.
Well, guess what? It's a very hitter friendly environment in Colorado. So maybe he goes bombs away and makes it work. I'm very interested to see that. We'll get back to that in a second. But Sterling Thompson, it's a solid prospect, solid hit tool. Was not the most impressive year for him after some of the hype that he had at the lower levels. So that's just still a guy though that you have enough intrigue with. Benny Montgomery, tools galore,
Right.
but can he continue to refine the mechanics in the box? Cole
For sure.
Carrick has long been one of my favorite, just unsung super utility intrigue types that had a
For sure.
great year. Then you have on the pitching side, which is so weird to say with the Rockies, Chase Dolander, Carson Palmquist, Sean Sullivan, Gabriel Hughes, Zach Agnes, and Jeffrey Yan, baby. Like I'm
Yep.
not missing a Jeffrey Yan appearance.
Nope.
The arms are crazy.
Yeah. Who are you most intrigued by? And I'll start with my answer. Like I'm fired up to watch Dolander throw in big league spring for sure. But I want to see if 88 plays from Sean Sullivan.
Yeah.
Like I'm really curious to see if that can actually play against big league hitters.
Or if he's found a couple ticks or a
Yeah,
tick.
sure. That too.
He's a big boy. Like he's
Yeah.
tall and he's had room to add some strength. And I mean, if he's up a tick, even one, if he's
Yeah.
89, like I think it makes a huge difference because the characteristics are so unique and the look is so tough. Every tick could make a huge, huge difference. And we've seen him a little bit higher in the past. So I'm literally looking like radar gun immediately with him, and just to see what that looks like. Because if he's hitting 90, I I might even start pushing him in the top 100. Like I think that's how good he can be if he can just get up to 90 flat. Um,
Yeah.
Dolander, of course, it's one of the best fastballs in the minor leagues, and
Right.
yeah, that's exciting. But there's nothing he's going to do in spring training that's going to get him up to the big leagues. And like, even if he struggled, if he dominates or struggles, I don't think it really would change my perspective on him whatsoever.
Right. Right.
Agnes could pitch his way into an opportunity in the bullpen too.
Agnos could, Jeffrey Yan could as well.
Yeah.
Like I think both those guys could pitch their way into a big league bullpen where like they just have to try things and see what works in Colorado, especially with bullpen arms.
So Keston here at 26 home runs in 86 games.
It's some Luke and Baker stuff. It's like Luke and Baker in Memphis, which is a bandbox, and then Keston here in the PCL. They're like mythical beasts.
He had a stretch of 19 games where he hit slash 360, 429, 853 in the PCL with 12 home runs. 12 home runs and 75 at bats.
That's not bad.
I don't know if it's probably not going to work, but maybe at home he can. If he's 60% of this, he's got a roster spot for the Rockies.
Yeah, he might have an all-star spot.
So I'm absolutely rooting for that, and there couldn't have been a better landing spot for Hira. It's going to be fun. So that'll do it. That's the NRIs, the notable ones. Let us know in the YouTube comments if there's anyone you thought we missed that intrigues you. And then, of course, we are going to be talking Marlins top prospects on Tuesday, which is going to be a lot of fun because Jack's going to be watching a lot of these guys through spring training, and Jack's going to have a long drive, right? Well, what's the travel schedule here for you as you drive down from Chicago to? You got to stop in Miami first, then up to Jupiter. Or no,
I don't have to stop in Miami. I'm going right to Jupiter, but I will say I will walk you through it after you give the Padres their shine. We didn't talk San Diego, man.
Good catch, sir.
Yeah,
I don't even have it in my notes. How'd I miss that team?
I'll walk you through. I got you. Martin Maldonado is an NRI. That's interesting. Ethan Salas is also one. Gavin Sheets. How about that? Salas is certainly the name that jumps out, but Leo DeVries also got the big league camp invite. Jonathan Perlaza and Oscar Gonzalez. Luis Patino, this is probably his last chance here.
Yeah.
And that's really it in terms of guys that jump out. So you're going to see Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries get big league ABs. How many? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think any opportunity to see Leo DeVries play baseball is great. And you're going to see him hitting against guys that are like potentially 15 years older than him. So,
Right.
So that's always cool. And it's been so fun to watch him just play every opportunity I've been able to have there. So I'm hopefully going to be able to get some live looks in Arizona as well. Braden Nett's not a bad arm. And Braden Nett, when I saw him, I believe it was in the fall league, I liked some of the life on his stuff. So that could be a guy with some intrigue. And then, Patino, this is kind of like one of those last chances here to show something.
Yeah. Commute for me is going to be go to Indy to sort through all my stuff there. Leave there Sunday morning. I already booked my night in Warner Robins, Georgia on Sunday night. And then Monday I finish the drive to Jupiter. So I don't have to get down to Miami. I'm just going to go to Jupiter.
Nice.
And then I'm going to deal with all the Miami stuff on an off day at some
Well,
point.
I'll see you there because I'll be probably at the fields one of these days this coming week. So keep an eye out for that.
I already got us tickets to Florida Atlantic basketball. This is going to be great.
Oh yeah. And we might go to FAU Miami, see a little Daniel Cuvée. Could be a potential first round bat as well. So, keep an eye out. Well, the next few weeks will be, especially the minor leaguers report, a lot of backfields video on Twitter. You can look out for that. And on socials as well. Be sure to follow us at the Call Up Pod. I'm giving away so many cards. Basically, every single time we put out a team top prospect list, I'm giving away a card. So be sure to follow us on X, I should say, at the Call Up Pod, and Instagram as well. We're continuing to build that thing up. Some exciting interviews coming up too. Potentially a very fun college one next week. An arm I think you would love to hear from after
throwing in about half an hour.
Yeah, throwing in a half hour, probably going to strike out everybody if that's a good hint. But looking like we're going to talk to him on Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that as well. Could be the number one pick in the draft. So that'll do it for this episode. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you about Marlins prospects next week.